Hello, and welcome! It is me, Barney Rose Smith. Is the mic working? Yay! Mic is working. No scuff today. Barney Rose Smith, live from the Written Library / VR chat. Welcome. We're in a medieval Renaissance castle. I'm very orange. The lighting in here is very orange, yes. I've done my best to brighten it up a little bit. Probably could have put some OBS filters on it to make it a bit prettier. But yeah, we're just very orange today. It's just the mood lighting. It's mood or Fanta flavored brain. There are a lot of different Fantas. They're not all orange. That's Fantarist. Welcome everyone to the grand return of my reading streams. Yay! Because now I have the superpower that is VR chat. I also made this my pedestal that I can spawn in any VR world I want. So I can read in any VR world I want to. So we can have a setting that fits the book every time, and it's great. But welcome everyone. Welcome Nimby! Welcome Naka-chan! Welcome Benjamin! Welcome Max! Welcome Northside Phantom! Welcome any lurkers! Welcome any warders! Oh, white governor! I know I had to say it. As soon as he wrote that and I saw it in the chat, I have to say it. I have to say that one out loud. Pardon, Orangina flavoured brownie. Yeah, that's better. That's better. Orangina only has orange, as far as I know. Who knows? There might be some weird flavours out there. Anyway, we're reading this, which you can't see the fault of because of the Christmas bunting, but the Christmas bunting is very necessary due to the time of year that it is. So, we're reading about, well, you have a label down there, in case you can't read it on there. We are reading The Legends of King Arthur and His Knights by Sir James Knowles and Sir Thomas Malory. So this is the book of today. I just told you, and welcome Scarlet Silver and welcome. Is this? I know, like I said, I know the bunting's in the way. Lovely Project Gutenberg knife, very knife. Project Gutenberg book. Hello, HP Tars, a book from the Library of Ruina. No, this is from the library that is the Project Gutenberg online free books nonsense that is that wonderful project where you can get lots of things. Very nice, much sword. There is a sword in here. It's over there. Let me show you. I need to stop the cameras. Let's see if we can do some camera stuff. Camera nonsense. There's the knives. Very big knives. Very nice. Swap cameras. Ha-ha! Look at her! She could do things! How amazing is that? Blade and sorcery! Very much so. It is The Legends of King Arthur. That is all about blades and sorcery. The Legends of King Arthur. On second thought, let's not go to Camelot. 'Tis a silly place. Indubitably. Has pictures! I might need to... Maybe I could make this a bit smaller so it doesn't get covered by the bunting so much. There we go. That looks good. Funny how knights in RPG never get cool blessings unless they're a paladin. That is true! They should get more cool blessings. A preface to the 8th edition. The publishers have asked me to authorize a new edition in my own name of this little book, now long out of print, which was written by me 35 years ago under the initials JTK. In assenting to their request, I wish to say that the book, as now published, is merely word-for-word reprint of my early effort to help popularize the Arthur legends. It is little else than an abridgment of Sir Thomas Malory's version of them, as printed by Caxton, with a few additions from Geoffrey of Monmouth and other sources, and an endeavour to arrange the many tales into a more or less consecutive story. The chief pleasure which came to me from it was and is that it began for me a long and intimate acquaintance with Lord Tennyson, to whom, by his permission, I dedicate it before I was personally known to him. Blame D&D. D&D, Tolkien as well. Me using a claymore to spread butter on my toast. Ah, yes, knife. It's a really big bit of toast. One of my favourite stories growing up was the giant jam sandwich. It is as you expected. Oh, I don't want my titties in. There we go. I don't want my titties in my podium. It's not how it works. But yeah, and you would need a claymore to spread that one. You need multiple claymores to spread all the butter on that one. I have Geoffrey of Monmouth book. Interesting. Cool. Giant jam sandwich. It's about a town that gets besieged by wasps. So in order to get rid of them, they make a giant jam sandwich and trap all the wasps in the jam. I can't remember what they do afterwards. But I remember... Do I have it? 1 minute. 1 minute. One cotton picking minute. One sec. It must be on my bookshelf downstairs. All good. Can't find it. It's downstairs. Classic brunch reading Arthur Ashe. I would love to read you guys the giant jam sandwich. If I could find it. Hello! It is a VR chat for reading. We're doing a reading VR chat. Because this is the power. This is VR chat. Yes. I am using VR chat as a medium to which I can read my streams in whatever world suits our story, which is why I'm in a somewhat medieval Renaissance banquet hall. I thought that would be best. Somewhat Camelot vibes. Yeah. Also, its tracking is about as good as the other tracking I was doing anyway, so, you know, why not? No, I'm just gonna go. We're just gonna go. I want to read it. Look at all of what we got to get through. We got to read law. Was the illustrator called Lancelot Speed? Oh my god, what a name. I just rearranged my bookshelf a few days ago. And by rearrange, I mean started putting it in order. Then it gave up halfway through. Mood. Many illustrations for us to. Chapter 1! That's what I want. The prophecies of Merlin and the birth of Arthur. King Vortigern, the usurper that sat upon his throne in London, when suddenly upon a certain day ran a breathless messenger and cried aloud, "Arise, Lord King, for the enemy is come! Even Ambrosius and Uther, upon those whose throne thou sittest, and full 20,000 with them, and they have sworn by a great oath, Lord, to slay thee, ere this year be done. And even now they march towards thee as the north wind of winter for bitterness and haste. Hello, Teller! Hello, Teller and Tellers, two readers, welcome. And hello, Dread Excalibur, it is in fact briny time. You have joined at the right time, we've just started. Let the work be done within 100 days from now, or I will surely spare no life amongst you all. Got rated, book nerd. Fuck you, book nerd. I mean, book nerd's a compliment, let's face it. Then all the host of craftsmen, fearing for their lives, found out a proper site whereupon to build the tower. What tower? I just skipped a whole paragraph. Holy duck. It's been a while since I did a reading stream. Okay. At those words, Lord Vortigern's face grew white as ashes, and rising in confusion and disorder, he sent for all the best artificers and craftsmen and mechanics, and commanded them vehemently to go and build him straightway in the furthest west of his lands a great and strong castle, where he might fly for refuge and escape the vengeance of his master's sons. And moreover, cried he, let the work be done within 100 days from now, or I will surely spare no life amongst you all. Then all the host of craftsmen, fearing for their lives, found out a proper site whereupon to build the tower, and eagerly began to lay the foundations. But no sooner were the walls raised up above the ground than all their work was overwhelmed and broken down by nightly invisibility, no man perceiving how, or by whom, or what. And the same thing happening again, and yet again, all the workmen full of terror sought out the king, and threw themselves upon their faces before him, beseeching him to interfere and help them, or to deliver them from their dreadful work. I thought we skipped a bit, but I'm not a professional reader, so I don't want to say it. We 100% skipped it. It's okay. How holy is this duck? So holy. We should all worship the duck. Filled with mixed rage and fear, the king called for the astrologers and wizards, and took counsel with them on what these things might be, and how to overcome them. The wizards worked their spells and incantations, and in the end declared that nothing but the blood of a youth born without mortal father, smeared upon the foundations of the castle, could avail to make it stand. Messengers were therefore sent forthwith through all the land to find, if it were possible, such a child. Sire, the only way to cleanse your castle from being haunted is to murder a holy child. We're 2 pages in. Giddy. And without hesitation he goes to find said child to sacrifice. And as some of them went down a certain village street, they saw a band of lads fighting and quarrelling, and soon heard them shout at one, "Avaunt, thou imp, avaunt! Son of no mortal man, go! Find thy father, and leave us in peace." Classic British pastime. Sounds like some Macbeth born of woman nonsense. I do. At that the messengers looked steadfastly on the lad, and asked who he was. One said his name was Merlin, another that his birth and parentage were known by no man, a third that the foul fiend alone was his father. Hearing the things, the officers seized Merlin and carried him before the king by force. Anya. And people wonder why 40k as well. Yeah. Our stories have always been wild. Humanity loves making wild stories throughout history. But no sooner was he brought to him than he asked in a loud voice for what cause he was thus dragged here. "My magicians," answered Vortigern, "told me to seek out a man that had no human father, and to sprinkle my castle with his blood, that it may stand." "Order those magicians," said Merlin, "to come before me, and I will convict them of a lie." The king was astonished at his words, but commanded the magicians to come and sit down before Merlin, who cried to them, Because ye know not what it is that hinders the foundation of the castle, ye have advised my blood for cement to it, as if that would avail. But tell me now, rather than there is below that ground, For something there is surely underneath that will not suffer the tower to stand. The wizards at these words began to fear, and made no answer. Then said Merlin to the king, I pray, Lord, that workmen may be ordered to dig deep down into the ground till they shall come to a great pool of water. This then was done, and the pool discovered far beneath the surface of the ground. Then, turning again to the magicians, Merlin said, Tell me now, false sycophants, what there is underneath that pool. But they were silent. Then he said to the king, Command this pool to be drained, and at the bottom shall be found 2 dragons, great and huge, which now are sleeping, but which at night awake, and fight, and tear each other. At their greatest struggle all the ground shakes and trembles, and so casts down thy towers, which therefore never yet could find secure foundations. Oh lordy, that would be an issue. Just notice your watermark was a sort of character. Was it? Is it not just my cute chibi? The king was amazed at these words, but commanded the pool to be forthwith drained, and surely at the bottom of it did they presently discover the 2 dragons, fast asleep, as Merlin had declared. But Vortigern sat upon the brink of the pool till night, to see what else would happen. Then those 2 dragons, one of which was white, the other red, rose up and came near one another, and began a sore fight, and cast forth fire with their breaths. But the white dragon had the advantage, and chased the other to the end of the lake, and he, for grief at his fight, turned back upon his foe, and renewed the combat, and forced him to retire in turn. But in the end the red dragon was worsted, and the white dragon disappeared, no man knew where. Cute edible chibi-ish. Don't sacrifice a child. You're building on an underground lake, fools. Merlin the first surveyor. Yeah. Let me just take a drink. When their battle was done, the king desired Merlin to tell him what it meant, whereas he burst into tears, cried out this prophecy, which first foretold the coming of King Arthur. Woe to the red dragon, which figureth the British nation, for his banishment cometh quickly. His lurking holes shall be seized by the white dragon, the Saxon whom thou, O king, haste called to the land. The mountain shall be levelled as the valleys, and he rivers of the valleys shall run blood. Cities shall be burned, and churches laid in ruins, till at length the oppressed shall turn for a season and prevail against the strangers. For a boar of Cornwall shall arise and rend them, and trample their necks beneath his feet. The island shall be subject to his power, and he shall take the forests of Gaul. The house of Romulus shall dread him, all the world shall fear him, and his end shall no man know. He shall be immortal in the mouths of the people, and his works shall be food for those that tell them. Hello, Exenal, welcome. But as for thee, O Vortigern, flee thou the sons of Constantine, for they shall burn thee in thy tower. For thine own ruin wast thou traitor to their father, and didst bring the Saxon heathens to the land. Euryalus and Uther are even now upon thee to revenge their father's murder, and the brood of the white dragon shall waste thy country, and shall lick thy blood. Find out some refuge if thou wilt, but who may escape the doom of God? Good Lord. Some powerful statements. Skewy. After drinking too much, I feel worsted. Yay. After a long day at work, I too feel worsted. We should bring that back as a word. Worsted. When was the last time you felt worsted? The king heard all this, trembling greatly, and, convicted of his sins, said nothing in reply. Only he hastened the builders of his tower by day and night, and rested not till he had fled hitherto. In the meantime, Aurelius, the rightful king, was hailed with joy by the Britons, who flocked to his standard, and prayed to be led against the Saxons. But he, till he had first killed Vortigern, would begin no other war. He marched therefore to Cambria, and came before the tower which the usurper had built. Then, crying out to all his knights, "Avenge ye on him who hath ruined Britain, and slain my father and your king!" He rushed with many thousands at the castle walls, but being driven back again and again, and yet again, at length he thought of fire, and ordered blazing brands to be cast into the building from all sides. These finding soon a propeller fuel, ceased not to rage, till spreading to a mighty conflagration, they burned down the tower and Vortigern with it. I mean, he did get told he would burn in his tower. He really should have, I don't know, fireproofed. Medieval fireproofing, that's a thing, right? Cambria means Wales, in case people didn't know. Yes, Britain at this time in British history wasn't the Britain we know. It was Britain was Wales and, like, southeast England, which is where Cornwall is. So Britain wasn't even the whole of the island. You had Saxons invading, were the Celts around? Like Celtic to the north. And then you had whatever was going on with Ireland at the time. Honestly, I don't know that bit of history. But, yeah. Britain was not Britain at the time. It is called Britain, but it is not Britain. It's Wales and a little bit of England. Then did Aurelius turn his strength against Hengist and the Saxons, and defeating them in many places, weakened their power for a long season, so that the land had peace. If only Vortigern had invested in asbestos, he would have been spared! Yeah! And then he would have had a slow death to something else! Yeah! They would have called it the medieval sickness. The sickness took him. The asbestos sickness took him. Anon the king, making many journeys to and fro, restoring ruined churches, creating order, came to the monastery near Salisbury, where all those British knights lay buried, who had been slain there by the treachery of Hengist. For when in former times Hengist had made a solemn truce with Vortigern to meet in peace and settle terms, whereby himself and all his Saxons should depart from Britain, the Saxon soldiers Saxon soldiers carried every one of them beneath his garment a long dagger, and, at a given signal, fell upon the Britons and slew them to the number of nearly 500. Hear ye, if ye or yon for meal hath been struck down by the sickness, ye may be entitled to gold and jewels. Salisbury. Big city on the Welsh border. Salisbury. The sight of the place where the dead lay moved Aurelius to great sorrow, and he cast about in his mind how to make a worthy tomb over a many noble martyrs who had died there for their country. When he had in vain consulted many craftsmen and builders, he sent by the advice of the Archbishop for Merlin, and asked him what to do. If you would honour the burying place of these men, said Merlin, with an everlasting monument, send for the giant's dance, which is in Calarius, a mountain in Ireland, for there is a structure of stone there which none of this age could raise without a perfect knowledge of the arts. They are stones of a vast size and wondrous nature, and if they can be placed here as they are there, round this spot of ground, they will stand forever. A great circle of some kind of stones. Sounds kind of hengy. At these words of Merlin, Aurelius burst into laughter and said, "How was it possible to remove such vast stones from so great a distance, as if Britain also had no stones fit for the work?" "I pray the king," said Merlin, "to forbear vain laughter. What I have said is true, for those stones are mystical, and have healing virtues. The giants of old brought them from the furthest coast of Africa, and placed them in Ireland, where they lived in that country, and their design was to make baths for them, for use in time of grievous illness. For if they washed the stones and put the sick into the water, it certainly healed them, as also it did them that were wounded in battle. And there is no stone among them but hath the same virtue still." "Who's stoning thy henge?" Yes. Oh, it's probably not going to be directly mentioned here, but the mention of Archbishop reminded me Britain and Britons were Christian, but the Saxons were Germanic, so it was also a religious war element. Fascinating. It is. The King Arthur time is a complicated time in British history. There's a lot going on. I think one of the best books, there was a time travel book I read called, and I highly recommend the series, St. Mary's, the Chronicles of St. Mary's, and they're a group of historians that go back into, that travel back into history to study it, and their answer to, like, King Arthur was that it was basically like a skirmish group that went to and up and down the country fighting off Saxons, pretty much, which is kind of what it is, but not. It's very British. It's wonderful. Chronicles of St. Mary's is amazing. You definitely should read it. I may have not made it through the entire series because this woman is both has amazing comedy, but also really, really painful bits. It can be very feelsy, and it hurt me physically, mentally, and everything. Yeah. Anyway. When the Britons heard this, they resolved to send for the stones, and to make war upon the people of Ireland. Yay! Let's fight more people! When we're already struggling to keep the country away from the Saxons, let's fight more people! That's the British way. If we're not fighting on multiple fronts, are we really British? Brody going, "This art hurt me," and threw the book against the wall. Yeah, it did! Every book made me laugh out loud and cry. Every single one, and I didn't want to cry anymore. But that's how good of an author she is. Good Jodie. When the Britons heard this, they resolved to send for the stones. Pause to chat. Thank you. I hate you, but thank you. Listen, they didn't have Vtubers on Netflix back then, so there wasn't much to do other than go to war. Especially for England. England and Britain, we'd love to fight people. It's fun. Fighting people is fun. So, to make war upon the people of Ireland if they offered to withhold them. So, when they had chosen Uther, the king's brother, for their chief, they set sail to the number of 15,000 men and came to Ireland. There, Gillimancius, the king, withstood them fiercely, and not till after a great battle could they approach the giant's dance, the sight of which filled them with joy and admiration. But when they sought to move the stones, the strength of all the army was in vain, until Merlin, laughing at their failures, contrived machines of wondrous cunning, which took them down with ease, and placed them in the ships. Merlin makes some magic! One second. When they had brought the whole into Salisbury, Aurelius, with the crown upon his head, kept 4 days the feast of Pentecost, with royal pomp, and in the midst of all the clergy and the people, Merlin raised up the stones and set them round the sepulchre of the knights and barons as they stood in the mountains of Ireland. Then was the monument called Stonehenge, which stands, as all men know, upon the plain of Salisbury to this very day. Soon thereafter it befell that Aurelius was slain by poison at Winchester, and was himself buried within the giant's dance. At the same time came forth a comet of amazing size and brightness darting out of a beam, at the end wherefore was a cloud of fire shaped like a dragon, from whose mouth went out 2 rays. Britain doesn't have an Independence Day because every other country's Independence Day is independence from Britain! Correct. Yes. Correct. You're welcome for your extra national holiday. But yeah, very true. Merlin invented the forklift. He did. One stretching over Gaul, the other ending in 7 lesser rays over the Irish Sea. At the appearance of this star, a great dread fell upon the people, and Uther, marching into Cambria against the son of Vortigern himself, was very troubled to learn what it might mean. Then Merlin, being called before him, cried with a loud voice, "O mighty loss! O stricken Britain, alas! The great prince is gone from us. Aurelius Ambrosius is dead, whose death will be ours until, unless God help us, haste therefore, noble Uther, to destroy the enemy. The victory shall be thine, and thou shalt be king of all Britain, for the star with the fiery dragon signifies thyself, and the ray over Gaul portends that thou shalt have a son, most mighty, whom all those kingdoms shall obey, which the ray covers." UK, world-leading exporter of Independence Day since 1775. Correct! Thus, for the second time did Merlin foretell the coming of King Arthur, and Uther, when he was made king, remembered Merlin's words, and caused 2 dragons to be made in gold, in likeness of the dragon he had seen in the star. One of these he gave to Winchester Cathedral, and had the other carried unto all his wars before him, whence he was ever called Uther Pendragon, or the Dragon's Head. Gaul. France, in case people didn't know, it might not include northwest corner, called Brittany, but it might, maybe. Yeah, Lancelot's from France, isn't he? Tea was getting cold. Now, yep, Lancelot was French, I do believe. Now, when Uther Pendragon had passed through all the land and settled it, and even voyaged unto all the countries of the Scots, and tamed to the fierceness of that rebel people, he came to London, and ministered justice there. And it befell a certain great banquet and high feast, which the king made at Easter tide. There came with many other earls and barons, Gorlas, Duke of Cornwall, and his wife, Igerna, who was the most famous beauty in all Britain. And soon thereafter, I don't know what it is. Being slain in battle, Uther determined to make Igerna his own wife. But in order to do this and enable him to come to her, for she was shut up in the high castle of Tintagel. Igraine! Oh! I knew it! I've heard Igraine before, but I don't think I've ever seen it written down. I knew that. Totally. On the first coast of Cornwall, the king sent for Merlin to take counsel with him, and to pray his help. This, therefore, Merlin promised him on one condition, namely, that the king should give him up the first son born of the marriage. For Merlin, by his arts, foreknew that this firstborn should be the long-wished Prince King Arthur. When Uther, therefore, was at length happily wedded, Merlin... why is that triggering? Why is it that? There we go. No, my hand's not doing that. That. There we go. Put hand down. Are we good? Okay, we're good. Just small scuff. Tiny scuff. When Uther, therefore, was at length happily wedded, Merlin came to the castle on a certain day and said, Sir, thou must now provide thee for nourishing of thy child. And the king, nothing doubting, said, Be as thou wilt. I know a lord of thine in this land, said Merlin, who is a man both true and faithful. Let him have the nourishing of the child. His name is Sir Ector, and he hath fair possessions both in England and in Wales. When therefore the child is born, let him be delivered unto me, christened at yonder postern gate, and I will bestow him in the care of this good knight. So, when the child was born, the king bid 2 knights and 2 ladies to take it, bound in rich cloth of gold, and deliver it to a poor man, whom they should discover at the postern gate. And the child being delivered thus to Merlin, whom himself took the guise of a poor man, was carried by him to a holy priest, and christened by the name of Arthur, and then was taken to Sir Ector's house, and nourished at Sir Ector's wife's own breasts. And in the same house he remained privately for many years, no man soever knowing where he was, save Merlin and the king. Fun fact, the eldest son of Henry VII was called Arthur, but he died before he got King Arthur. I wonder if he would have called himself Arthur the Second. That would have been fun. Arthur 2, Electric Boogaloo. The once and future. Finally, the potato is in place more respectful. I can swear at you now. Chase, you little shit. Anon it befell that the king was seized by a lingering distemper, and the Saxon heathens, taking their occasion, came back from oversea, and swarmed up upon the land, wasting it with fire and sword. When Uther heard thereof, he fell into a great rage than his weakness could bear, and commanded all his nobles to come before him, that he might upbraid them for their cowardice. And when he had sharply and hotly rebuked them, he swore that he himself, nigh unto death, although he lay, would lead them forth against the army. Then, causing a horse litter to be made, in which he might be carried, for he was too faint and weak to ride, he went up with all his army swiftly against the Saxons. But they, when they heard that Uther was coming in a litter, disdained to fight with him, saying it would be a shame for brave men to fight with one half dead. So they retired into their city, and, as it were, in scorn of danger, they left the gates wide open. But Uther straightway, commanding his men to assault the town, they did so without loss of time, and already reached the gates, when the Saxons, repenting too late of their haughty pride, rushed forth in the defence. The battle raged till night, and was begun again next day, but at last their leaders, Octa and Eosa, being slain, the Saxons turned their backs and fled, leaving the Britons in full triumph. Ha! We could beat them. Their king's in a feckin' wheelchair. Little did you know, bitch. Bitch, you thought. Bitch, you thought. The king, at this, felt so great joy that, whereas before he could scarce raise himself without help, he now sat upright in his litter by himself, and said, with a laughing and merry face, "They called me the half-dead king, and so indeed I was. But victory, to me, half-dead, is better than defeat, and the best health. For to die with honour is far better than to live disgraced." But the Saxons, although thus defeated, were ready still for war. Uther would have pursued them, but his illness had by now so grown that his knights and barons kept him from the adventure, whereat the enemy took courage, and left nothing undone to destroy the land, until descending to the vilest treachery, they resolved to kill the king by poison. To this end, as he lay sick at Verulium, they sent and poisoned stealthily a spring of clear water, whence he was wont to drink daily, and so, on the very next day, he was taken with the pains of death, as were also 100 others after him, before the villainy was discovered, and heaps of earth thrown over the well. Poison the wells! Poisoning the wells back in this day! That is biological warfare. That is awful. The Greeks could have learned a thing or two from Uther. Instead of sieging for 10 years. Send an old man and maybe they'll leave the gate open. Bloody whippersnappers! I think Verulium is St. Albans, but I'm not sure. Yeah, I'd have to look that up. I hate when my illness has advanced so much my knights and barons prevent me from doing war. But it's my war! What else am I supposed to do? What? The knights and barons, full of sorrow, now took counsel together, and came to Merlin for his help to learn the king's will before he died. For he was, by this time, speechless. Sirs, there is no remedy, said Merlin, and God's will must be done. But be ye all tomorrow before him, for God will make him speak before he die. So on the morrow all the barons with Merlin stood round the bedside of the king, and Merlin said aloud to Uther, Lord, shall thy son Arthur be king of all this realm after thy days? Then Uther Pendragon turned him about, and said in the hearing of them all, God's blessing and mine be upon him. I bid him pray for my soul, and also that he claim my crown, or forfeit all my blessing. And with those words he died. Then came together all the bishops and the clergy, and great multitudes of people, and bewailed the king, and carrying his body to the convent of Ambrius, they buried it close by his brother's grave, within the giant's dance. Bye, Uther! It's Arthur time. The miracle of the sword and the stone, and the coronation of King Arthur. The sword Excalibur, the war with the 11 kings. That's a lot of kings, bro. Now, Arthur the prince had all this time been nourished in Sir Ector's house as his own son, and was fair and tall and comely, being of the age of 15 years, great in strength, gentle in manner, and accomplished in all exercises proper for the training of a knight. 11 does seem excessive. 10? Fair enough, but 11? But as yet he knew not of his father, for Merlin had so dealt that none save Uther and himself knew aught about him. Wherefore it befall that many of the knights and barons who heard King Uther speak before his death, and call his son Arthur his successor, were in great amazement, and some doubted, and others were displeased. Anon the chief lords and princes set forth each to his land, and raising armed men and multitudes of followers, determined every one to gain the crown for himself. For they said in their hearts, if there be such a son at all as he of whom this wizard forced the king to speak, who are we that a beardless boy should have rule over us? So the land stood along in great peril, for every lord and baron sought but his own advantage, and the Saxons, growing ever more adventurous, wasted and overran the towns and villages in every part. Then Merlin went to Brice. The Archbishop I think it's Bree. The Archbishop of Canterbury, and advised him to require all the earls and barons of the realm, and all knights and gentlemen at arms to come to him at London before Christmas, under pain of cursing, that they might learn the will of heaven, who should be king. This, therefore, Canterbury. I know how to say Canterbury. It ain't Canterbury. That's wrong. It's Canterbury. I know how to say blooming Canterbury. The will of heaven, who should be king. This, therefore, the Archbishop did, and upon Christmas Eve were met together in London all the greatest princes, lords, and barons, and long before day they prayed at St. Paul's Cathedral. St. Paul's Church, is it not a cathedral yet? And the archbishop bestowed heaven for a sign who should be lawful king of all the realm. And as they prayed, there was seen in the churchyard, set straight before the doorways of the church, a huge square stone, having a naked sword struck in the midst of it. And on the sword was written in gold letters, "Whoso pulleth the sword from this stone is born the rightful king of Britain." All cathedrals are churches, but they're also cathedrals. Next you'll be telling me that Worcestershire isn't pronounced as Worcestershire. It ain't pronounced Worcestershire, it's Worcestershire. Or Birmingham isn't pronounced turn around and never come back. That one's right. Unless you're going for some kind of convention, because they have a really big convention hall there. And I think like Britain's last Vtuber convention was there too, so. Cathedral just refers to the seat of the bishop. We learned today. At this, all the people wondered greatly, and when mass was over, the nobles, knights, and princes ran out eagerly from the church to see the stone and sword. And a law was forthwith made, that whosoever should pull out the sword should be acknowledged straightway King of Britain. Then many knights and barons pulled at the sword, all with their might, and some of them tried many times, but none could stir or move it. When all had tried in vain, the archbishop declared the man whom heaven had chosen was not here there, but God, said he, will doubtless make him known ere many days. So 10 knights were chosen, being men of high renown, to watch and keep the sword. And there was proclamation made through all the land, that whosoever would had leave and liberty to try and pull from the stone. But through great multitudes of people came, both gentle and simple, for many days, no man could ever move the swords a hair breadth from its place. I see no woman tried. I am no man, Paul. When in doubt, that's how it go, right? Now, at the New Year's Eve, a great tournament was to be held in London, which the Archbishop had devised to keep together lords and commons, lest they should grow estranged in the tumultuous and unsettled times. To the which tournament there came with many other knights, Sir Ector, Arthur's foster-father, who had great possessions near to London, and with him came his son, Sir Kay. But I know it says it's Sir Kay. I don't know why it's spelled key. I will never know. But recently made knight to take his part in the jousting. Hydrate, I will do. Have backup tea, we're good. Backup tea is tasty. And young Arthur also to witness all the sports and fighting. But as they rode towards the jousts, Sir Kay found suddenly he had no sword, for he had left it at his father's house. And turning to young Arthur, he prayed him to ride back and fetch it for him. I will, with a good will, said Arthur, and rode fast back after the sword. But when he came to the house, he found it locked and empty, for all were gone forth to see the tournament. Whereat, being angry and impatient, he said within himself, I will ride to the churchyard, and take with me the sword that sticketh in the stone, for my brother shall not go without a sword this day. So he rode and came to the churchyard, and alighting from his horse, he tied him to the gate, and went to the pavilion, which was pitched near the stone, wherein abode the 10 knights who watched and kept it, but he found no knights there, for all were gone to see the jousting. Then he took the sword by its handle, and lightly and fiercely he pulled it out of the stone, and took his horse, and rode until he came to Sir Kay, and delivered the sword. But as soon as Sir Kay saw it, he knew well it was the sword of the stone, and riding swiftly to his father, he cried out, "Lo! Here, sir, is the sword of the stone, wherefore it is I who must be king of all this land." Okay. When Sir Ector saw the sword, he turned back. He turned back straight with Arthur and Sir Kay, and came to the churchyard, and there alighting, they went all three to the church, and Sir Kay was sworn to tell truly how he came by the sword, and he confessed that it was his brother Arthur who had brought it to him. Whereat Sir Ector, turning to young Arthur, asked him, "How gottest thou the sword?" "Sir," said he, "I will tell you. When I went home to fetch my brother's sword, I found nobody to deliver it to me, for all were abroad to the jousts. Yet I was loath to leave my brother swordless, and bethinking me of this one, I came hither eagerly to fetch it for him, and pulled it out of the stone without any pain." Then said Sir Ector, amazed, and looking steadfastly on Arthur, "If this indeed be thus, 'tis thou who shalt be king of all this land, and God shall have it so, for none but he who should be the rightful Lord of Britain might ever draw this sword forth from that stone. But let me now with mine own eyes see thee put back the sword into its place, and draw it forth again." Da-da-da! Pictures! Pictures. "That is no mystery," said Arthur, and straightway set it in the stone. And then Sir Ector pulled at it himself, and after him Sir Kay, with all his might, but both of them in vain. Then Arthur, reaching forth his hand and grasping at the pommel, pulled it out easily, and at once. Then fell Sir Ector down upon his knees, upon the ground before young Arthur, and Sir Kay also with him, and straightway did they homage as their sovereign lord. But Arthur cried aloud, "Alas, mine own dear father, and my brother, why kneel ye thus to me?" Pictures! Yeah, they're not figs, but they will do. Just imagine how badly the sword edges are after being stuck in the stone for so long. That's what blacksmiths are for. We're fine. We can repair it. How bent the blade is from all the attempts of pulling it out. It's a magical sword. It's a magical holy sword. It doesn't get bent. We know that the church frowns on the non-straights, so it definitely isn't bent. "Nay, my lord Arthur," answered then Sir Ector, "we are of no blood kinship to thee, and little though I thought of how thy kin might be, yet waste thou never more than foster child of mine." They did it just like Disney. They did it just like the Disney movie. Yes. And then he told him all he knew about his infancy, and how a stranger had delivered him, with a great sum of gold, into his hands to be brought up and nourished as his own born child, and then had disappeared. But when young Arthur heard of it, he fell upon Sir Ector's neck, and wept and made great lamentations. "For now," said he, "I have lost in one day my father and my mother and my brother." "Sir," said Sir Ector presently, "when thou shalt be made king, be good and gracious unto me and mine. If not, said Arthur, I were no true man's son at all, for thou art he in all the world to whom I owe the most, and my good lady and mother, thy wife, hath ever kept and fostered me as though I were her own. So, if it be God's will that I be king hereafter, as thou sayest, desire of me whatever thing thou wilt, and I will do it, and God forbid that I should fail thee in it. I will but pray, replied Sir Ector, that thou will make my son, Sir Kay, thy foster brother, seneschal of all the lands. That he shall be, said Arthur, and never shall another hold that office, save thy son, while he and I do live. Anon they left the church, and went to the archbishop to tell him that the sword had been achieved. And when he saw the sword in Arthur's hands, he set a day and summoned all the princes, knights, and barons to meet again at St. Paul's church and see the will of heaven signified. So, when they came together, the sword was put back in the stone, and all tried, from the greatest to the least, to move it, but there before them all, not one could take it out, save Arthur only. But then befell a great confusion and dispute, for some cried out, it was the will of heaven, and long live King Arthur, but many more were full of wrath, and said, What? Would ye give the ancient sceptre of this land unto a boy born none know how? And the consecration and the contention growing greatly, till nothing could be done to pacify their rage. The meeting was at length broken up by the archbishop and adjourned till Candleman's, when all should meet again. But when Candleman's was come, I assume Candleman's means like nighttime, means you have to like put on the candles kind of time. Arthur alone again pulled forth the sword, though more than ever came to win it. And the barons, sorely vexed and angry, put it in delay till Easter. But as he had sped before, so he did at Easter, and the barons yet once more contrived delays till Pentecost. Just to be nitpicky, the seat of the Archbishop of Canterbury is not St. Paul's. Being in London, it is the seat of the Archbishop of the Bishop of London. Correct. Candlemas, I think it's another word for Epiphany, or January 6th. That would make sense. Benjamin with the big brain here. But now the Archbishop, fully seeing God's will, called together by Merlin's council a band of knights and gentlemen at arms, and set them about Arthur to keep him safe till the feast of Pentecost. Hello, person with Japanese writing that I cannot pronounce. If you could give me an English thing to call you, that would be great. I am a nerd, thank you. Candlemas, love that band. And when, at the feast, Arthur, still again alone, prevailed to move the sword, the people, all with one accord, cried out, Long live King Arthur! We shall have no more delay, nor any other king, for it is God's will, and we shall slay whoso resisteth him and Arthur. Watashino Nama. Oh, your name is Raza Desu. Welcome, Raza Desu. Thank you for giving me an English name. Hello, Raza. Raza Desu. Or is it just Raza? Watashi nama Raza Desu. It just be Raza, yes. And Withal, they kneeled down all at once, and cried for Arthur's grace and pardon, that they had so long delayed him from his crown. Then he full sweetly and majestically pardoned them, and taking in his hand the sword, he offered it upon the high altar of the church. Anon was he solemnly knighted with great pomp by the most famous knight there present, and the crown was placed upon his head. And having taken oath to all the people, lords and commons, to be true king, and deal in justice only unto his life's end, he received homage and service from all the barons who held lands and castles from the crown. Then he made Sir Kay High Steward of England, and Sir Bedwayne of Britain Constable, and Sir Ulfius Chamberlain. And after this, with all his court and a great retinue of knights and armed men, he journeyed into Wales, and was crowned again in the old city of Carlion upon Usk. Carlion. Gotta get some of that Welsh out of me. Meanwhile, those knights and barons who had so long delayed him from the crown met together, and went up to the coronation feast in Carlion. Became a knight, and all they called me was Kay. Kay. Okay, Raza. As if to do him homage, and they ate and drank such things as were set before them at the royal banquet, sitting with the others in the great hall. But when after the banquet Arthur began, according to this is I put you in timeout, Raza, because those messages are clearly against my rules, which is keeping things on theme to the stream. You're only on a little timeout. You should be back. When you come back, please keep things on theme to the stream. Anyway. Says, I mean, you guys are all, like, interacting with the stream itself. Whatever do you mean? A theme to the stream? It is not about knights and... Ugh, because that rhymed, I wanted to make a whole little song about themes and streams. There's a theme to the stream. Can you... yeah, whatever. I don't need to just fight. Yeah, it's about King Arthur, so no talk about Charlemagne. Or Monsimus. Yeah! Where was I? I got lost. And drank such things as were... Get out rhymed. Such things were set before them at the royal banquet, sitting with the others in the great hall. But when after the banquet Arthur began, according to the ancient royal custom, to bestow great boons and feasts upon whom he would, they all with one accord rose up and scornfully refused his gifts, crying that they would take nothing from a beardless boy come of low or unknown birth, but would instead give him good gifts of hard sword strokes between neck and shoulders. Guys! I thought you were on his side now! Whereout arose a deadly tumult in the hall, and every man there made him ready to fight. But Arthur leapt up as a flame of fire against them, and all his knights and barons, drawing their swords, rushed after him upon them and began a full sore battle. And presently the kings partly prevailed, and drove the rebels from the hall and from the city, closing the gates behind them. And King Arthur brake his sword upon them in his eagerness and rage. But amongst them were 6 kings of great renown and might, who more than all raged against King Arthur in determined to destroy him, namely King Lot, King Nantes, not quite Nyanas, King Uren, King Cardos, King Yeda, come from the chef of the night pun, hey, you know it, and King Anguisant. Also welcome. Good evening. The weather's terrible outside. It's been awful, but I guess that's winter, innit? King Arthur, the original rage bait. His existence is a rage bait. But it's a rage bait that was set up by Merlin. Because Merlin was like, hey, I mean, I know he's prince, but no one else does, so no one else is gonna like this except me, and I'm just gonna be like, hee 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 in the background, while they all insult him and pretend he's not of noble birth. That's Birmingham, innit? Yeah. Go cook, have breakfast, then come back to that. Darn! Hee hee hee. Yeah. These 6, therefore, joining their armies together, laid close siege to the city of Carlion, wherefore from King Arthur had so shamefully driven them. And after 15 days Merlin came suddenly into their camp, and asked them what this treason meant. Then he declared to them that Arthur was no base adventurer, but King Uther's son, whom they were bound to serve and honour, even though heaven had not vouchsafed the wonderful miracle of the sword. Some of the kings, when they heard Merlin speak thus, marvelled and believed him, but others, as King Lot, laughed him and his words to scorn, and mocked him for the conjurer and wizard. But it was agreed with Merlin that Arthur should come forth and speak with the kings. It's winter, innit? Therefore, super flu. It is. We apparently have a super dupe. I haven't known anyone who's had the super flu yet this year. I hope everyone's keeping healthy and drinking lots of orange juice and lemon sips this year. Apparently the flu is pretty bad. So look after yourselves. So he went forth to them to the city gate, and with him the Archbishop and Merlin, and Sir Kay and Sir Bratius, and a great company of others. And he spared them not in his speech, but spoke to them as king and chieftain, telling them plainly he would make them all bow to him if he lived, unless they chose to do him homage there and then. And so they parted in great wrath, and each side armed in haste. What will ye do? Said Merlin to the kings, ye had best hold your hands, for were ye 10 times as many, ye should not prevail. Shall we be afraid of a dream reader? Quoth King Lot in scorn. Instructions unclear. I have bubonic plague. That's unfortunate. With that Merlin vanished away, and came to King Arthur. Then Arthur said to Merlin, I have need now of a sword that shall chastise these rebels terribly. Come then with me, said Merlin, for hard by there is a sword that I can gain for thee. So they rode out that night till they came to a fair broad lake, and in the midst of it King Arthur saw an arm thrust up, clothed in white samite, and holding a great sword in the hand. Lo, yonder is the sword I spoke of, said Merlin. Then saw they a damsel floating on the lake in the moonlight. Oh, what damsel is that? Said the king. The Lady of the Lake, said Merlin, for upon this lake there is a rock, on the rock a noble palace, where she abideth, and she will come towards thee presently. Thou shalt ask her courteously for the sword. The watery tart, yeah! Watery tarts handing out swords. Tart of the lake. Wherein the damsel came to King Arthur, and saluted him, and he saluted her, and said, Lady, what sword is that the arm holdeth above the water? I would that it were mine, for I have no sword. Sir King, said the Lady of the Lake, that sword is mine, and if thou wilt give me in return a gift whenever I shall ask of thee, thou shalt have it. By my faith, said he, I will give thee any gift that shalt ask. Well, said the damsel, go into yonder barge, and row thyself unto the sword, and take it with the scabbard with thee, and I will ask my gift of thee when I see my time. Only the plague want to swap for a case of demonic possession. It seemed cool at first, but the demon is real talkative. And has the voice of a cheese grater. Oh no! So King Arthur and Merlin alighted, and tied their horses. Actually, I'm going to go on a very quick BRB. Then we can restart this page. That is the wrong screen. Where is it? There it is. This is the wrong screen. You want to know what the wrong screen is? It's just my main screen zoomed in. As you can see, the bunting hasn't been done properly in here. And it's on fire, so evidently that's going well. So let's go to the right screen, shall we? That isn't on fire, and the bunting's been put up properly. Yay! Sword fighting is cool, but you like to lance a lot? I see. Well, it just makes the sword more a rental, because now you just owe a gift anytime she shows up. Mm-hmm. Go, go, gadget, fire, magic. It is true. But also, Dread Excalibur, it's you! They're picking up you from the lake. So, King Arthur and Merlin alighted and tied their horses to 2 trees and went into the barrage. Fate reference, innit? This whole book's a Fate reference. It's so cool that they made some books based off Fate. And when they came to the sword that the hand held, King Arthur took it by the handle and bore it with him, and the arm and hand went down under the water, and so they came back to the land, and rode again to Carlion. They went into the water! The barge that floats on the water! On the morrow, Merlin bade King Arthur to set fiercely on the enemy, and in the meanwhile 300 good knights went over to King Arthur from the rebels' side. Then, at the spring of day, when they had scarce left their tents, he fell on them with might and main. And Sir Baedwin, Sir Kay, and Sir Brastice slew on the right hand and on the left marvellously, and ever in the thickest of the fight King Arthur raged like a young lion, and laid on with his sword, and did wondrous deeds of arms, to the joy and admiration of the knights and barons who beheld him. Then so breasticle. Favouriteur getting larger, like a landfill fire in a forest fire. Correct. Then King Lot, King Cardos, and the King of the 100 Knights, who also rode with them, going round to the rear, set on King Arthur fiercely from behind. But Arthur, turning to his knights, fought ever in the foremost press until his horse was slain beneath him. At that King Lot rode furiously at him, and smote him down, but rising straightway, and being set again on horseback, he drew his sword Excalibur. Suppressed. What the fuck was that laugh? Jesus Christ. It just turned into like a rusty hinge for a minute. He drew his sword Excalibur, and that he had gained by Merlin from the Lady of the Lake, which, shining brightly as the light of 30 torches, dazzled the eyes of his enemies, and therewithin falling on them afresh with all his knights, he drove them back and slew them in great numbers. And Merlin, by his art, scattering among them fire and pitchy smoke, so that they broke and fled. Then all the common people of Carlion, seeing so King Arthur and Merlin, seeing them give way, rose up with one accord, and rushed at them with clubs and staves, and chased them far and wide, and slew many great knights and lords. And the remainder of them fled, and were seen no more. Thus won King Arthur his first battle, and put his enemies to shame. Squeaky tall laugh. My normal laugh is genuine, but that one was what in the world? But the 6 kings, though sorely routed, prepared a new war, and joining to themselves 5 others, swore together that whether for weal or woe they would keep steadfast alliance till they had destroyed King Arthur. Then, with a host of 50,000 men-at-arms on horseback, and 10,000 foot, they were soon ready, and sent forth their 4 striders, and drew from the northern country towards King Arthur, to the castle of Bedegraine. But he, by Merlin's counsel, had sent over sea to King Ban of Benwick, and King Bors of Gaul, praying them to come and help him in his wars, and promising to help in return against King Claudas. King Ban, that's Lancelot's daddy. That's why he's French. Jousting with the jester from Nottingham. Helping him in his wars, and promising to help in return against King Claudas, their foe, to which those kings made answer that they would joyfully fulfil his wish, and shortly after came to London with 300 knights well arrayed for both peace and war, leaving behind them a great army on the other side of the sea, till they had consulted with King Arthur and his ministers how they might best dispose of it. And Merlin, being asked for his advice and help, agreed to go himself to fetch it over sea to England, which in one night he did, and brought with him 10,000 horsemen, and led them northward privately to the forest of Bedegraine, and there lodged them in a valley secretly. Then, by the counsel of Merlin, when they knew which way the 11 kings would ride and sleep, King Arthur and King Ban and Bors made themselves ready with their army for the fight, having yet but 30,000 men, counting the 10,000 who had come from Gaul. Now shall ye do my advice, said Merlin. I would that King Ban and King Bors, with their fellowship of 10,000 men, were led to ambush in this wood ere daylight, and stir not therefore until the battle hath been long waged. And thou, Lord Arthur, at the spring of day draw forth thine army before the enemy, and dress the battle so that they may at once see all thy host, for they will be more rash and hardy when they see you have but 20,000 men. Much friends. The Ferris wheel. King Arthur's trip to Harrods. Oh, sorry, 1 second. Hydration! To this the 3 knights and the barons heartily consented, and it was done as Merlin devised. So on the morrow, when the hosts beheld each other, the host from the north was greatly cheered to find so few led out against them. Then gave King Arthur the command of Sir Ulfris and Sir Baristas to take 3,000 men at arms, and to open battle. They therefore, setting fiercely on the enemy, slew them on the right hand and the left, till it was wonderful to see their slaughter. When the 11 kings beheld so small a band doing such mighty deeds of arms, they were ashamed, and charged them fiercely in return. Then was Sir Ulfris's horse slain under him, but he fought well and marvellously on foot against Duke Eustace and King Clarence, who set upon him grievously, till Sir Baristas, seeing his great peril, pricked pricked towards them swiftly, and so smote the Duke through with his spear that horse and man fell down and rolled over. Whereat King Clarence turned upon Sir Baristus, and rushing furiously together, they each unhorsed the other, and fell both to the ground, and there lay a long time stunned, their horses kneeing beneath, being cut to the bone. Then came Sir Kay, the seneschal, with 6 companies, and did wondrous well, till the 11 kings went out against them, and overthrew Sir Grifelt and Sir Lucas the butler. And when Sir Kay saw Sir Griflet unhorsed, and on foot he rode against King Natters hotly, and smote him down, and led his horse to Griflet, and horsed him again. With the same spear did Sir Kay smite down King Lot, and wounded him full sore. Get prick nerd. Sir Barrister of Starbucks. Yeah. Don't forget to hydrate and stretch. Do not support my posture, please. I don't like to be postured. Posturing is against the law. Pricked is a very weird word. It's just that one we shouldn't have back. That one can stay in the past. But seeing that the king of the 100 knights rushed at Sir Kay and overthrew him in return, and took his and took his horse and gave it to King Lot. And when Sir Griflet saw Sir Kay's mischance, he set his spear in rest, and riding at a mighty man-at-arms, he cast him down headlong, and caught his horse, and led it straight away to Sir Kay. By now the battle was growing perilous and hard, and both sides fought with rage and fury. But Sir Ulfus and Sir Baristas were both afoot, and in great danger of their death, and foully stained and trampled under horses' feet. Then King Arthur, putting spurs to his horse, rushed forward like a lion into the midst of all the malice. Why is it like that? Why? I don't know. Yeah, pricked with a needle makes sense, but pricked in that context is very strange. 'Tis but a scratch. Yeah. I mean, I knew when we picked this book that it was going to be full of Monty Python jokes. And signalling out, King Credilmont of North Wales smote him through the left side and overthrew him, and taking his horse by the rein, he brought it to Sir Ulfrus in haste, and said, "Take this horse, mine old friend, for thou hast great need of one, and charge by side of me." And even as he spoke, he saw Sir Ector, Sir Kay's father, smitten to the earth by the king of the 100 knights, and his horse taken to King Credilmont. But when King Arthur saw him ride upon Sir Hector's horse, his wrath was very great, and with his sword he smote King Credilmont upon the helm, and shore off the 4th part thereof, and of the shield, and drave the sword onwards to the horse's neck, and slew the horse, and hurled the king upon the ground. Howdy, howdy, welcome. I know. The Monty Python and Fate spin-off that this is amazing. They have a crossover! It's crazy! And now the battle waxed so great and furious that all the noise and sound thereof rang out by water and by wood, so that kings, ban, and boors, with all their knights and men-at-arms in ambush, hearing the tumult and the cries, trembled and shook for eagerness, and scarce could they stay in secret. but made them ready for the fray and dressed their shields and harnesses. But when King Arthur saw the fury of the enemy, he raged like a mad lion, and stirred and drove his horse now here, now there, to the right hand, to the left, to the window, to the wall, and stayed not in his wrath till he had slain full 20 knights. He wounded also King Lot so sorely in the shoulder that he left the field, and in great pain and sorely in the shoulder that he left the field, and in great pain and dolour cried out to the other kings, "Do ye as I devise, or we shall be destroyed! I, with the King of the 100 Knights, King Anguist, King Yeda, and Duke of Cambent, will take 15,000 men and make a circuit, meanwhile that ye do hold the battle with 12,000 men. 12,000, then come suddenly, we shall fall fiercely on them from behind, and put them to rout, but else shall we never stand against them." So Lot and 4 kings departed with their party to one side, and the 6 other kings dressed their ranks against King Arthur, and fought long and stoutly. But now Kings Ban and Bors, with all their army fresh and eager, broke from their ambush, and met face to face the 5 kings and their host as they came around behind. And then began a frantic struggle with breaking of spears and clashing of swords, and slaying of men and horses. Anon King Lot, espying in the midst King Bors, cried out in great dismay, "Our Lady, now defend us from our death and fearful wounds. Our peril groweth great, for yonder cometh the worshippest fullest kings and best knights in all the world." "Who is he?" said the King of the 100 Knights. "It is King Bors of Gaul," replied King Lot, "and much I marvel how he may have come with all his host into this land without our knowledge." "Aha!" cried King Cardus, "I will encounter with this king if ye will rescue me when there is need." "Ride on," said they. So King Cardus and all his host rode softly till they came within a bowshot of King Bors, and then both hosts spurring their horses to their greatest swiftness rushed each other, and King Bors encountered in his onset with a knight and struck them through with a spear, so that he fell dead upon the earth. Then drawing his sword, he did such mighty feats of arms that all who saw him gazed with wonder. Anon King Ban came also forth upon the field with all his knights, and added yet more fury, sound, and slaughter, till at length both hosts of the 11 kings began to quake, and drawing all together unto one body, they prepared to meet the worst, while a great multitude already fled. Then said King Lot, "Lords, we must take yet other means, or worse loss still awaits us. See ye not what people have lost in waiting on the footmen, and that it cost 10 horsemen to save one of them? Therefore it is my counsel to put away our footmen from us, for it is almost night, and King Arthur will not stay to slaughter them, so they can save their lives in this great wood hard by. Then let us gather unto one band all the horsemen that remain, and whose breaketh the rank or leaveth us, let them be straightway slain by him that seeketh him, for it is better that we slay a coward than though a coward be all slain. How say ye?" said King Lot. "Answer me, all ye kings." "It is as well," replied they all. And swearing they would never fail each other, they mended and set right their armour and their shields, and took new spears and set them steadfast against their thighs, waiting, and so stood, still as a clump of trees stands on the plain, and no assaults could shake them, and they held so hard together, which when King Arthur saw, he marvelled greatly, and was very wroth. Yet, he cried, I may not blame them, by my faith, for they do as brave men ought to do, and are the best fighting men and knights of most prowess that I ever saw or heard of tell. And so said also King Ban and Bors, and praised them greatly for their noble chivalry. But now came 40 noble knights out of Arthur's host armour, King Armour, and prayed that he would suffer them to break the enemy. And when they were allowed, they rode forth with their spears upon their thighs, and spurred their horses to their hottest. Then the 11 kings, with a party of their knights, rushed with set spears as fast and mightily to meet them. And when they were encountered, all the crash and splinter of their spears and armour rang with a mighty din. And so fierce and bloody was their onset, that in all that day there had been no such cruel press and rage and smiting. At that same moment rode fiercely into the thickest of the struggle King Arthur and King Bors and Ban, and slew downright on both hands right and left, until their horses went in blood up to the flecklocks. And while the slaughter and the noise and the shouting were at their greatest, suddenly there came down through the battle Merlin the wizard upon a great black horse, and riding to King Arthur he cried aloud, Alas, my lord, will ye have never done? Of 60,000 have ye left but 50,000 men alive. Is it not time to stay this slaying? For God is ill pleased with ye, that ye have never ended, and yonder kings shall not be altogether overthrown this time. But if ye fall upon them any more, the fortune of this day will turn, and go to them. Withdraw, Lord, before thy lodging, and there now take thy rest, for today thou hast won a great victory, and overcome the noblest chivalry of all the world. And now for many years those knights shall not disturb thee. Therefore I tell thee, fear them no more, for now they are sore beaten, and have nothing left them but their honour. And why shouldest thou slay them to take that? Merlin didn't ask how big the room is. He cast fireball! Then said King Arthur, Thou sayest well, and I will take thy counsel. With that he cried out, Ho! For the battle to cease, and sent forth heralds through the field to stay more fighting. And gathering all the spoil, he gave it, not amongst his own host, but to King Ban and Bors, and all their knights and men at arms, that he might treat them with the greatest courtesy as strangers. Then Merlin took his leave of Arthur and the 2 other kings, and went to see his master. Blaise, a holy hermit dwelling in Northumberland, who had nourished him through all his youth, and Blaise was passing glad to see him, for there was a great love ever between them. And Merlin told him now King Arthur had sped the battle, and now it had ended, and told him the names of every knight and knight of worship who was there. So Blaise wrote down the battle word for word, as Merlin told him. And in the same way ever after, all the battles of King Arthur's days, Merlin caused Blaise, his master, to record. Da-da-da! Chapter 3. We got 12% through in one stream. That's pretty good. But I think we've got 10 minutes left. We're not getting through another chapter in 10 minutes. Yeah, no way, Jose. No way, Jose! Would you like to have a look around this world we're in? So, the adventure of the questing beast. King Arthur drives the Saxons from the realm, and the battle of Seldian Forest and Baden Hill will be next. She's killing it today. I am so blazing. 420. Art of Rage Bait and Written. Yeah. That is what we had. The best rage bait known to man. Let me show you around the castle while we have a bit of time. This is the throne. This is where the King Arthur would sit. Look at this. It's so well done. It's very cool in here. This is my box. My box is amazing. I can, in fact, take my box away. Got the candles. Oh, I can pick up the sword! I could sit on the throne. Let me just set up the camera so you guys can see. La 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 la. Let me do it. My skirt does fly up when I sit though. Boop! Eh. Ta-da! My subjects! My dear Brionicles! Maybe I should turn to the side. Eh. No, it still doesn't look good. I need to get an outfit with pants. Because this is questionable. Ta-da! She's on the throne! It's fine. They are still a British creature, so beans on toast being not wrong. Not wrong. Hi. Wanna look at the rest? Let me move my camera so you can see the thing. La 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 la. Let's have a look. So this is what they're feasting on. Hi. So we got some bread, we got some fruit, we got meat. Just the average jump scare. But yeah, this is, let me tell you what this world is. This is a world called Medieval and Renaissance Fantasy Throne Room, I think is the full name, by Stray. So if you want to check this out, it's there. It is a public channel. A public world for you to check out. I'm thinking for some future streams that I can invite you guys in. I'm just a little bit worried, really, if about the vibe of a reading stream with you guys in it, if you're doing too many shenanigans. But we can but try. So maybe next week I'll give you guys the code. Not you guys. Members and Patreons, I'll give the code to join the world, and then you guys can be there while I'm reading. So, but I don't know how it'll work. We'll give it a go. You guys might just be bored being in the world, but you know, we will try. Shenanigans? You? No way! I'm expecting silly things to happen in the background, basically. Shenanigans? Us? Never? Well, sometimes, most of the time, in fact. But it might be fun. Maybe we do it like once a month or something. We do a reading stream with you guys in. Or maybe every other week, because I feel like if I did it every week, then I would make no progress in reading. And the Lord did grin, and the people did feast upon the lambs and sloths and carp and archeries and orangutans and breakfast cereals and the fruit bats. Let me show you the sword. Pick up the sword. I have a sword. This isn't how you carry a sword. I can't pick where I pick up the sword from. Can I pick it from the handle? No, this is just how I pick up the sword. So in preparation for those times that that I invite you guys in, VR chat is free. It is free on Steam. I think you can get it on some phone apps as well. You don't need VR to play it. I'm not playing it in VR right now. You can just go on desktop. So if you are a member or a Patreon, get that downloaded. And maybe you'll be able to join me next time. It'll be fun. But until then, I think that's all I have for you for today. Can move it like the you underestimate my caliber. The only thing I have that's summonable. I don't have any weapons. Oh, I didn't mean to crouch. Boop, 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 boop. Wrong button. You guys have already seen it. It's not even that exciting, but you know. I don't think you can hear it because I actually don't have the Vtube sound coming through. Yeah, I have a groan tube. But that is all I have. I will be updating my model with fun stuff as we go. But, like I said, thank you. That's all I have for you for now. You can hear it! Wonderful, 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 wonderful. Good, 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 good. Okay, that's all I have for you for now. Thank you so much everyone for coming! Thank you everyone in chat, thank you anyone who lurked, thank you anyone who watches the VOD. I really appreciate you coming. And if you and hope you enjoy no matter which way you decide to enjoy. If you have not already, I'd also highly appreciate it if you could leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you're on Twitch, give the channel a cheeky follow. That'd be lovely. I'm definitely gonna hit my head for amusement. If you've done all that, go check out a lot of the other stuff I do. I write books. I record books. Not like this, but like actually on Audible. If you search Bryony Rose Smith on Audible, you'll find an actual audiobook from moi. And same on Kindle, you'll find actual books that I've written. I done the thing. And then I have a merch store on www.bryonyrosesmith.co.uk. And I have a Patreon. And I have a memberships. You should Patreon some memberships, as I said, they will have the chance to join me in reading streams. We will also do the things that have been voted for at some point. I don't know if that's going to happen earlier or later than Christmas, but you know, we're going to try. I think that's about it. Tell your friends about me, I'm great. Like, subscribe, comment, all that shite. But for now, I'm gonna do 3 streams again next week. We'll probably. I'm trying to go back to my regular schedule. So I will be back tomorrow with some stars and time. But for now, I had fun. I hope you had fun. This has been Bryony Rose Smith, live in the Forbidden Library /VR chat. I'll see you next time. Bye. Wait, no, get me. Where's my mouse? There it is. Bye! Where's the screen? There it is. Bye!